Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Baat Kardi. So, today I want to talk about the I don't know whether you would call this an idea or just a sort of state of being that everyone has kind of adopted as of late, which is just the idea of nonchalance, you know? Um, I don't know why people have gotten so obsessed with it. I don't understand why it's sort of taken over. I don't understand why it's become such a big part of who people think is what they should be aspiring towards. Um, for those of you who don't know what nonchalant or just the idea of being nonchalant means, it's just the feeling or acting being very calm and detached and relaxed and not really displaying any sort of outward emotion. It's just like something big happens, they're like, oh, okay. Someone tries to profess their feelings towards them, they're like, oh, okay. You know, someone is trying to have a heart to heart conversation with them, and they're just like, oh, okay. And I don't know where this sort of wave came from in the last couple of days where people have just thought, oh, this is cool, you know, not caring is cool, being detached is cool, unaffectionate is cool. It's really not. Like, no one thinks you're cool. People think you're being a loser by not giving a shit about anything, the fact that you just seem to not care about anything that's going on in anyone's lives, sometimes even your own. Like, what's that about, you know um I don't know, like, to me, this is just one of those things that has sort of cropped up a lot in the last couple of years, or maybe it's just something that I've started noticing more in the last couple of years, and it has become something of a bother for me because I think that there is so much to life that we are missing out on by acting this detached, you know? Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I try to tell them, oh, I'm the complete opposite of nonchalant. I'm very chalant. And if there's someone in my life that I'm close to, or, I'm just good friends with, or whatever, I don't want a nonchalant relationship with you. I want a very chalant relationship with you. Be the complete opposite of nonchalant with me. Tell me everything, you know? Because what's the point of anything we're doing if we don't show where we're coming from? Like, what drives us, what motivates us, what pushes us, what makes us feel, Because what's the point? What's the point of just trying to act all mysterious and cool when you just seem like a loser that doesn't really care about anything? I mean, this might be coming off as like very aggressive towards a certain group of people, but honestly, that's just how I see it, I guess. Like, I don't care for nonchalance. I want people to be genuine. I want people to have active and, like, present lifestyles, because what is the point of any of this if we're just hiding behind this version of ourselves that we've made up because we think, oh, this is what people think is this is cool, this is hip, this is mysterious, this makes me attractive. It doesn't. Like, maybe I'm the minority when it comes to this, right? Maybe I'm just completely out of left field, and I'm I'm just basing this off of personal experiences and they're coloring my opinion. But the way I see it is that you don't need to be a complete open book. You don't need to start bearing your heart to people and just completely wearing your heart on your sleeve or whatever, right? You don't need to start going up to strangers and telling them your entire life story. Heaven knows I'm guilty of doing the same. But the way I see it is that we just have this one life, right? And we can either spend it just being super closed off, super reserved, and just super shy about it, or we can be unapologetically ourselves and embrace who we are and show people that version of ourselves, because people deserve to see you for you and not the masks that you're putting on constantly to try to appease society and just fit in better, because maybe it'll work, right? Maybe it works and maybe you get accepted for this version that you're putting out there, and maybe you start getting a lot of good feedback, people start accepting you, you feel really great about it, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But at some point or the other you're going to realize this is not me, and parts of your inner self will start slipping out bit by bit, and maybe it's not going to be seen the same way that you were being seen for because of your detached demeanor, and that might just break your heart. And I don't think it's worth any of whatever it takes to build up to that, because I think you deserve better. And I think that you should be honest with who you are from the get-go, because that will always be better than a perceived version of who you could be. At least that's how I see it. Um, for me, I think it just comes down to the fact that I am not afraid to talk about myself. I'm not afraid to be open. I'm not afraid to be emotional. And sometimes I have what a lot of people see as a habit of oversharing, which to me isn't necessarily oversharing. To me, it just seems like sharing. I guess like this is just a part of my story. Like there was this one time where I was out with one of my really close friends, and he had invited me out for a pizza dinner situation with his other friends. And at this point, I hadn't met any of these people. It was a completely new environment for me, and I met up with these people, and I started talking. I started telling them about my background. I started telling them about law school and so on and so forth. Right? Got to sometime later, and we're all having a conversation about I don't even remember what at this point, and that earlier friend says, "Oh, but you share your life story with basically anyone." I'm like, No, not really." Like they're like, "No, but you like tell people basically anything." And I was like, "Not really." They're like, "Oh, but what about this instance?" And I was like, "Listen to me. While yes, that was sharing some aspect of my story, that wasn't the complete version or anything, and that wasn't that big of a deal to me personally, because those are just things that are, you know, my story is more than just the things that happened to me. My story is how I've lived through those things and the person I'm becoming after, you know. My story is about who I'm becoming day by day, and I don't see that necessarily as oversharing or as even as me just sharing too much about my life with basically strangers, because the way I see it is that life will sort of figure itself in one way or the other, right? So I can either just choose to live it not talking about anything that I've been through, or I can just talk about all of it. Like, the entire premise of this podcast is to talk to you guys candidly, share my stories, share my experiences, and maybe something clicks and connects with someone, right? Who knows? But to me, it's also just about it's about putting myself out there, putting myself in new situations and seeing what comes of it. Sometimes when I'm talking to you guys, I have epiphanies of my own. I have realizations and understandings of myself that I didn't really conclude before sitting down to record these sessions. And I think there's something really beautiful about that, because you never really know what's stirring right here in the old noggin, right in the back. So it's a nice fun experience, and I think it really shows us just how untapped our own stories are until we sit down and actually talk about them to someone. Because the way I see it, right, is that at some point or the other, we're all going to pass on. We're all going to be left to time, and the only way any of us lives on beyond this is through stories, is through the memories of those that love us and the ones that choose to carry us forward. It's a concept that is very beautifully um, presented in the Pixar film Coco, wherein the people in the film, I believe it's of like Mexican origin. I don't understand, or rather, I don't remember the culture of the people presented in the film very well, which is on me. So I'm sorry if it's not Mexican. Um, but the people in the film, they have a tradition, or rather a celebration every year, of remembering the people in their family or their loved ones that they've lost. Um, and the way that works is that they build this sort of shrine of their loved ones with pictures, and they take a moment to remember them and just acknowledge their lives. And what that does is that translates to the afterlife, where all of these people exist as ghostly skeleton versions of themselves. And unless you have someone that remembers you, that acknowledges your life and just who you were, you cease to exist. And that to me was such a powerful message, that we spend the entirety of our lives, right, just going from one thing to another, and we meet so many different people, some of whom are going to play a very brief role in our lives. Some are going to play huge, impactful roles in our lives that'll be there for years on end. And then there's going to be some people in our lives who are just going to be there for the big things, but not be there to see the end result. And you never know who's going to fit into which category, right? You never know if your childhood best friend is going to be there to see the end of your story. You don't know if your parent is going to be there to see you get married. You don't know if your siblings are going to be there to see your children. There's no guarantee of where life will ask us to depart from someone that we care for. But the one thing that we do have control over is how we choose to remember them and choose how to celebrate them and their lives. And to me, that's why Coco was such a brilliant film, because it showed that no matter how much time has passed, no matter how many people you interact with, it doesn't matter until and unless they remember you or they acknowledge your story, right? And for me, I want to tell stories because I want to be remembered beyond my time. I want to tell these stories so that I can last just a little bit longer. And call that what you want, right? Call it vanity, call it ego, whatever it is, right? But I would like to leave something behind that people can look on and say, damn, that that guy did something, or he said something, or that's worth remembering, and and hopefully for something good. Hopefully for something good and not something bad. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. Like I realize we've gone into quite a tangent here, but it really all just ties into the fact that the reason why I feel like I can and should share these feelings with you guys is because there's no reason not to. There's no harm in there's no harm in me not doing so. Or rather, there's no harm in me doing so, right? Like, I lose nothing by sharing it, and I am actually losing something by not sharing with you guys, because I lose out on the opportunity to have this space that I'm hoping to build for myself and for others as well, that you can just come here and talk, and it's a safe space, because heaven knows there are fewer and fewer places like that in the world, and sometimes even fewer on the internet. I don't know what this space is. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I started this podcast as a continuation of Project Manchala, which was also very much the same, with no necessary, like, no theme, right? I talked about anime, I talked about tech, I talked about COVID-19 and online school, I talked about mental health, I talked about so many things. I think I even talked about, like, medical school and, like, dental school at one point, right? So there's so many things that we've spoken about, and really, I think what it just comes down to is the fact that I just want to keep talking. I just want to keep talking, and I just want to keep telling you guys how life's been, how life is evolving, where I am, where I'm going to be. And yeah, I just think that that's gonna be nice. If nothing, I'll have this time capsule of memories of my time here in Cardiff that I'll be able to look back on and just see where I started from and where I ended up. If nothing, right? If nothing, if you look back on the last 6, 7 episodes, whatever, I think this is the seventh episode, last 6 episodes, you'll even see the progression of the growth of my hair, if nothing, right? So I think that there's no harm in this space just being something where I sit down with maybe a couple of friends and I just talk like an idiot. I talk like an idiot, and the topic says one thing and I talk about another, because who gives a damn? It's just a fun time. And that's how I see it. I don't know where my story is going to end. I don't even know if anyone's going to remember my story once all is said and done. Because I have friends, I have family, and maybe apart from my loved ones, there will be one or two people who think about me. But there's no guarantee. And that's okay too. But it would be nice to think that me just deciding to put my camera across from me, pick up my phone to record, and just talking for some 20 odd minutes might make enough of an impact on someone's life that they continue to think about me for a little bit longer. Like that just sounds like a really nice thought. And yeah, it's a little cheesy, but you never really know, right? You never really know when your actions might impact someone and leave a mark. So I choose to maybe have a little bit of hope that what I'm doing as basically a hobby at this point might actually be something worthwhile in the long run. And even if it's not, that's okay, because I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's okay. Because it's just okay. So after all of that rambling, I think I just want to say that be true to yourself, be open, be the most obnoxious version of yourself that you can be, because people deserve to know you, not some stupid made up version of yourself, because you deserve more. So yeah, I think we're gonna end this right here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe and share with others if you think they could do from this message, especially that obnoxious friend that's trying too hard to be Batman. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all in the very next episode of Baat Kardi. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.